Welcome to DCS Pathways. I'm Kevin Patton, Pathways Counselor for Dublin City Schools. Choosing courses and planning for life after high school can feel overwhelming. The ideas and resources shared here are intended to help students and families with this important process. This episode features a conversation with Tatum Peterson. Tatum graduated from Dublin City Schools in 2019. She then went on to Miami University, where she majored in political science and writing and rhetoric. She's now a second-year student at Case Western Reserve School of Law. Well, Tatum, it's so nice to see you. I'm always very excited for these interviews when I get to meet with former students, so thank you for agreeing to this.
Yeah, of course. It's so nice to be here and see you too.
Well, I know you are calling in from Cleveland, Ohio, lovely Cleveland, Ohio, and you are a second-year law student at Case Western Reserve. So very, very cool to see that some of the things that I know you were considering in high school have kind of led you to a path that I'm not shocked that you're in, but I still know you are certainly, you've shifted gears in terms of the way you view opportunities in law and what you might want to do. So I'm excited to dig into that. And really, we have a lot of students who are interested in different opportunities in that field. So I love that you're here to share your insight.
Yeah.
All right. So I know in the Peterson house, law is kind of the family business, and you grew up with both parents were lawyers, are lawyers. You had great role models to ask questions and look up to. But I'm curious, aside from seeing them in that profession, what were some of the experiences you had growing up that led you to want to pursue this career field?
Yeah. I think especially when I was younger, I've always had like a very justice like centered personality. I try to like be kind to everyone. It's just always bothered me when things like aren't fair or right. And so that's kind of where it started. And I didn't know that that necessarily would lead to a legal career, when I was like super young. But as I grew up and I'm thinking about, okay, I'm going to have to pick a job here and do something. Seeing my parents and especially my dad is in criminal law, that definitely like resonated with me and my values. And so I just, I kind of figured that was the path I'd go on. It made sense, and my parents were doing it. And in the summer between my sophomore and junior year of high school, what like really cemented my decision, Ohio University does a program called the Summer Law and Trial Institute. It is a fantastic program if you are in high school and thinking about pursuing a legal career. I can't recommend it highly enough. You go live on campus for 2 weeks, and it's basically like your first year kind of of law school, kind of smashed into 2 weeks. And then in the last couple of days, you put on a mock trial. And so they held auditions of everyone that was at the camp, and I actually got to be the head prosecutor for the mock trial, which was very fun. And you create your case, and you don't have any help. And there was a moment, honestly, that I can remember where I was giving my opening or closing statement in this mock trial, and they panel a jury, and they have a real judge come sit on the bench and preside over the trial. It was really cool. But there was a moment where I was giving my opening statement, and I was like, okay, yeah, I don't want to do this just because it makes sense, and it's a good career, and because my parents do it, like this is what I want to do for me. And that was a very like aha, like clouds open up, sunshine like moment for me.
No, that's great. And I think that's where those experiences are crucial in making those big decisions about what to do after high school. And I think you don't have to have it all figured out, but I do feel like it is important to have areas of interest that you are curious about, that you've started exploring, and then you see different avenues that you can take, whether that's college, whether it's a different type of educational program after high school, whether it's doing something, maybe just, going to school to become a paralegal to really make sure that's what you want to do and get that entry level experience, and then work with lawyers and see what they do. And now all of a sudden you have a whole different host of experiences to pull from before you start spending all that money on college. So there's a lot of directions you can go. So I think it's neat that you had the opportunity to do a program like that during the summer between your sophomore and junior year. Obviously it's lucky when we can have those aha moments. Sometimes you leave an opportunity like that and you cross something off the list, and that's valuable too. And I think it's really cool that you had the opposite and it led you to where you are now. But I think things like that are so awesome. And certainly college campuses have opportunities like that, and we have schools all over Ohio. But certainly there are great programs locally that a lot of times are free that different organizations offer to provide opportunities to students who are interested in law.
Yeah, and I know in Dublin, something that I was always struck by is the schools themselves provide so many opportunities for that with, Tolls and Emerald Campus. And like you can really, I think exposure is really the name of the game. And I keep in touch with my friends from that camp to this day. They're some of my best friends. And I think I'm the only one who's even in the legal field in any capacity. So
Isn't that
yeah,
funny?
most of them did that and were like, oh no, I'm not doing this. So, and that was valuable for them too.
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. And I think, I love that you bring up all of the experiential opportunities students have in high school, right? Through our academy programs, through just things that they can do that are they don't always feel like traditional classroom work. And I think we have some that are very specific towards certain career fields, and we don't have one specific to law. But I think if you're a student and you think, well, I wish we had something like that, I would say, do something like Young Professionals Academy. Do something where you can do an internship of your choosing, where you can choose a couple of different law firms to go and find mentors and learn about how they practice, and maybe see what trial law versus contract law or corporate law, or there's all kinds of different avenues within that field. So I think if you're in high school and you think that's an area you might be interested in, we do have ways to help you get that experience before you graduate and make those big decisions about where to spend your money and to invest your time to pursue a career.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would add to that, part of the reason that I have decided, like, I always wanted to go back home after law school because I'm really close with my family. But part of what cemented, like, okay, I don't want to be there just because of my personal life. Like, I want to practice law there is because the Columbus bar has something very like collegial about it. And most lawyers know that law school is a slog and it is tough. And so they are pretty motivated to give back and try to help the younger generations. And I have not met a judge or attorney in Columbus yet that if someone from high school was thinking about going to law school and reached out to them, wouldn't be like, not even just willing to help, but like eager to, a lot of life is just networking and connecting with people.
No, I love that you bring that up. It's flattering for those people, right? They're in careers where they feel like they're making an impact and a difference, and they want younger generations to see the value in careers like that. And of course, if you ask someone like that what they like about their job and how they got there and what are things that I can be doing now to help myself be successful in a career field like yours, they're going to be excited. Like you said, they're eager to answer those questions. They will. You can email back and forth. You can set up meetings at a coffee shop with you and your parents or whatever it might look like. There's so many ways to connect with those people. And I think it's awesome that you reference that in this conversation.
Yeah, and I just would add, I work at the federal district court downtown in the summers, and the amount of days that we've had a high school or college student come in because they found the judge's email somewhere and are just going to shadow for a day and watch trials and literally just like hang out in the chambers of a federal judge is, I mean, there's probably more days than not that that's happened. So just, put yourself out there, I think.
Yeah. No, it's such great advice. You have nothing to lose by asking for an opportunity like that. The worst case scenario is you get a no. Usually it turns into yes, but maybe it's you have to wait a little while or come during this time or actually talk to this person. They are, someone that loves doing this sort of thing. All of a sudden it just opens up doors that can only be opened if you, to your point, put yourself out there. So I think that's great advice. So let's go back a little bit to when you were in high school and you were deciding this is what I want to do. I'm now going to consider different colleges that will create that path for me to ultimately land in a law school. How did your views of that college selection process evolve in high school? And ultimately, how did you land on going to Miami University after your time at Kaufman?
I'm kind of a weird college story, which I don't know if you remember. I only applied to Miami. So I toured other schools. And, growing up with 20 minutes from Ohio State, I obviously was very familiar. And for a long time, I just kind of assumed I'd go to Ohio State. When I was super little, would see like the cheerleaders at the football games, be like, oh, that's going to be me. And I think that really what end of the day helped me make my decision was just knowing myself and what kind of learning environment I was going to do best in. And sometimes even Kaufman felt big to me in high school. It's definitely not a small school. And so when I was then actually like taking it really seriously and looking at colleges, Ohio State is just huge. Cincinnati is huge. Even Case, if you're, an undergrad student not in a prescribed program, is huge. And I just knew that I was going to get lost in the mix there. So I started looking at smaller schools, and Miami was just very much like, I mean, you step on campus and it's like a movie about college. And the second that I showed up there, I was like, okay, this is it. And I'm really grateful that I made that decision. I don't know. I didn't put that much thought into it, to be honest. It just like felt right. And so I would say just like touring campuses, I guess, was the biggest thing for me because when it clicked.
No, that's great. And it's interesting. I ended up going to Miami as well many years before you, and I kind of had a similar experience. I had gone to some smaller schools, I visited some campuses, and it really was just kind of the aesthetic appeal, walking around just very much like a college out of a movie. And then you start talking to the people and you start getting the vibe of the campus. And I was from a very small town, so the fact that it was a college town was appealing to me. It felt comfortable. It seemed like I could get from one end of the campus to the other without needing a map. So things like that
Yeah.
were important to me at the time when I didn't really know what I wanted to study yet. So I think what was a major difference between why you ended up there and why I ended up there was you had a bigger why and a purpose, and you knew they had programs that would lead to your future goals. And I was still very much trying to figure out what it was I wanted to do. I just knew it was a campus that was beautiful and a place that I thought I could be very happy for 4 years. But I think in retrospect, I wish I had explored more things in high school that would have given me a better why going into college. Because even if you change your mind, going in with a plan just gives you a lot more energy to go to class and to know why you're there and to have that purpose for putting more energy and effort into your schoolwork. Because when you don't know and you're just kind of exploring and not really doing a great job of it like I was, it can lead to years going by and you recognizing later, gosh, I'm all this money's being spent and I'm not really focusing enough on what I'm trying to do with this knowledge, right? It's fun and you can have a lot of fun in college and it goes by really quickly. And
Oh,
if you're
especially
not,
in Miami, you can have
especially at Miami. So if you are not paying attention to why you're there and talking to the career center and talking to advisors and even just talking to older students who are doing things that you
yeah.
think, wow, they seem to have their act together, those are things that I think can really enhance the college experience. And, it seems like you kind of kept that why throughout and it landed in a really great place for you beyond those 4 years.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually am kind of surprised how much I draw on different experiences or classes or things that I took in college, like every day in law school that I never expected to, especially like I did a minor in law and philosophy, I think it was something like that, or writing and law or something. And so I had to take a lot of anthropology classes. And I like use what I learned in those pretty much every single day. And so that was just kind of a cool, I don't know. I guess I just thought like law school would be law school and college would be college, and they really have blended together all of the experiences.
No, that's great. And I think another thing that I know you reference, and before these conversations, I like to ask some questions and gather some information. And one of the things I think between Miami and law school, there were some surprises for you in terms of what it was like to get into law school and what that whole process of applying and taking the tests and all of that. And I'd love for you to share for students who are listening, what are some things that would have been helpful for you to know about that process that you had to kind of figure out on the fly while you were making those decisions?
Yeah. Um, Honestly, the fact that the LSAT exists would have been huge to know. I knew that, you weren't just gonna turn in your transcript and get into law school. I assumed there was gonna be something more to it, but I didn't know what it was. And which is surprising, even with, I grew up in a house of lawyers and I still didn't like have that information because things change so much over time. And so, yeah, there's a test that you have to take. It's called the LSAT. I don't know what LSAT stands for. And it just changed. So it's different from when I took it, but it's 3 or 4 sections. One of the sections won't count. It's their testing, like questions for the future. And it's all like reasoning and reading based. And you have to study for it, and it is not fun. And if you're like me and you're going to apply right out of college, and it's really common to take a gap year or even work for several years and then go to law school. A lot of my classmates are, I mean, my class ranges from I'm 23 and I'm about the fastest track you could take into law school. And I have classmates that are in their 40s that this is their second career. And there's people from every age in between. But if you're going to do what I did and go right out of college, that means your first semester of senior year or like second semester of junior year, you're studying for the LSAT instead of hanging out with your friends. I have like so many memories of sitting in my bedroom with my LSAT book open or a practice test open, and I can hear my friends laughing in the living room, and I'm like miserable taking a 3 hour long test. And so that is tough. There's some sacrifice associated with it for sure. Yeah, and then that score, it goes with your transcript and you send that off to all of your schools. And then also kind of I think probably the biggest component of a law school application, other than just your LSAT score or your GPA, those are about like equally important, is your personal statement. So you have to write, it's about a page. You can't really go over a page about like why you want to go to law school. And that I've always been like a good writer. I really enjoy writing. That was kind of always my thing growing up. And even that was really tough for me to try to put in a page like why you want to do what you want to do with your life. It's tough to boil it down to just some words. So, but yeah, I wasn't really informed about what goes into an application at all. And you do need 2 letters of recommendation. So I would say definitely if you're planning on going to law school from day one in college, like start trying to create relationships with professors and faculty, or if you're on exec board for a club or something, getting to know that advisor, because when you get to the end of college, you are going to have somebody who's able to like really speak about you and knows you, in depth. So that I didn't really do that. And so then getting my letters of rec was actually quite a thing, but I got them. So.
No, that's great. And I think it's a great thing to bring up. That was something, again, I didn't do a good job of that either. I think developing relationships with professors, it can have such a huge advantage in so many ways to your college experience, to your future opportunities. I think those people are there because they enjoy working with young people that are figuring out their futures. And if you make the effort to go to their office hours and ask good questions and even just go to learn more about them. And again, that whole thing about it's flattering to be asked about yourself and your career path and how you ended up where you are. And all of a sudden you have somebody taking an interest in you, and then they take an interest right back. And all of a sudden they know what they're going to write about you, and they know why you're pursuing law because of the conversations you've had. And it's not something that's forced. It's very genuine. It's developed over years of time in a college setting. And I think that's really good advice. And regardless of what future plans you have for yourself, it just makes college more enjoyable when you have a few professors that you get to know on that level.
Yeah, for sure. And I kind of always hung back and was like in and out of class, and I didn't really go to office hours because I felt like I'd be bothering them. And now looking back, I'm like, they were professors. Like it's their job to interact with their students. If they didn't want to interact with their students, they wouldn't be educators. So I don't know why I thought that, but yeah, you're not bothering them.
No, I think in starting in high school is really the key. If you are someone that is already used to doing that in high school, it's a lot easier to see the value of it, and even just to have the confidence. And to your point, to recognize, hey, these people enjoy talking to people
Yeah.
like me. They're not bothered by me hanging out. Like, if you're asking the same questions over and over again that they just covered, they might not love that. But if you're showing up and you're paying attention and working hard and just getting stuck because it's really difficult content and you show up with some thoughtful questions, they're going to love sharing ways for you to actually grasp things that they want you to learn about. So I think that's a really good point. So another thing I wanted to dig into is just the different opportunities in the field of law that you've discovered since you've gone on and kind of gone through those first 4 years of undergrad. Now you're in your second year of law school, but I know you've also had a lot of experience in courtrooms, in externships, in things that are really giving you the direction that's leading to where you're going to end up in the field. So talk about some of the things that you've discovered that are now things that you might pursue that you didn't know about when you were in high school.
Yeah, part of, I guess it's not necessarily part of why I chose law school or a career in the legal field, but it is something that I really liked about that path is there's a lawyer in every single, field or business or, career that you can think of. And so it's a really great way to, I don't know, kind of have like a post grad plan, go to school, like be a little bit more educated, but also you can really do anything that you want or be involved in anything that you want. And so I always thought that I was going to be some kind of like criminal attorney. My dad is a criminal defense attorney, and when I was really young, he was like doing all of the, like really fantastic, like big news cases. He was part of the gang unit in Columbus, like prosecuting, those crimes. And so that was very, like it's true. He was literally doing true crime for his career. I think there's a reason people watch that and read it constantly. It's fascinating. But so I kind of always thought I was going to go that route. It was really interesting to me. I knew that I would have connections from him. I knew that I could lean on him if I needed help or anything. And as I have been exposed to more and more things, I have really kind of gotten away from that idea. Like I said, I extern at the Southern District of Ohio courthouse downtown in the summers. I've done that for a couple summers now with a few different judges. And that was a really fantastic opportunity to see that there's so many like topics of law, but there's also so many careers like within the legal field, whether it's like you mentioned being a paralegal earlier, or there's so many that aren't even really, you don't have to go to law school or even paralegal school or anything like that. There's, bailiffs and court reporters and the clerk of courts and that whole support staff. And there's just so much that people don't think about when they, when you hear like lawyer or, court case or whatever. There's just so many opportunities within this career. And there's even like mitigation experts, there's expert witnesses, there's, and so there's just a lot that is associated with a legal career that I didn't necessarily think about or consider before I kind of had those opportunities to be exposed to them.
No, and I think that's why I love getting to have these conversations, and I'm hoping more and more students will listen, because you don't necessarily hear this and then fall in love with one of the things you just mentioned if you've never heard it before, but just hearing about the value of putting yourself in a place that exposes you to all these different career options, because now all of a sudden you're there to learn about one job, but you see another one happening, and it's very simple to walk up to that person and say, tell me about your job. How did you end up here? Do you like it? What is it? And now all of a sudden it's like, you might walk out of that conversation and have a whole new idea about what you want to do. And I think those are the things that we want kids to realize, is you don't have to have it all figured out. And it's impossible to figure it out without life experience. Like, you have to go out and see what the world needs, what the jobs are, what jobs are, going to be in the future, because they're changing all the time. And if you're just kind of in classrooms all the time, or if you're not getting out of your house and experiencing life in that way, it's really hard to end up in the place that's going to be the best fit for you. So I love that you bring that up. And there's always things that I learn in these conversations. And I know that as I'm advising students and I'm helping teachers and counselors as they're advising their students that they're working with regularly. We're going to continue to do a better job of this because of just all these things that we're learning from our wonderful alumni network.
Yeah. There's just so much that I don't know, you don't really realize as a part of it, but you can't have a trial if you don't have marshals and there's a bomb dog at the courthouse. I was so interested when I found that out. I was like, okay, there's a job where I could be in a courtroom but also have a dog. So yeah, there's a lot of people that are really probably more important than the judges and lawyers that kind of get overlooked.
No, that's great. I love that. Well, I, like I said, learned so much in these conversations. The last thing I always like to ask before I kind of wrap up these interviews is, is there anything that would have been great for you to know? I know we talked about the process of law school, but anything just like more general than that kind of parting words of wisdom that you would like to share with kids that are going through that high school process right now and things that you wish you would have known back then?
Yeah. Kind of on just more of like a silly lighthearted, I would say definitely don't take for granted that right now you have hours a day where you get to play whatever sport you're passionate about. Or I was in choir and theater in high school, and I really took for granted that I had dedicated time to do something just because I enjoyed it. There was no other benefit or anything. I just was doing something I loved, and that I really miss that, and I wish I had more time for that, and I'm excited to graduate school because hopefully I will have some more time after that. But on a little bit more serious note, I would say, calm down, chill out. I thought in high school, and this is with hindsight, I didn't really necessarily realize that I thought this at the time, but looking back, I've realized that I thought in high school that I had to have everything figured out. I had to know exactly who I was then, who I was going to be in the future, what I was going to do with my life. I thought I was going to be a prosecutor, and I was, whatever. I just had this whole plan. And I even thought, I was like, I'm going to graduate from Ohio State Law School because then I'll be a Red Hawk and a Buckeye. I literally had everything planned. And that is life never listens to your plans. No matter how much you plan it out or think that you have a plan, it's gonna change. So don't waste your time and effort, doing that. Calm down. And as long as you just work really hard, and even if you're working hard and a year from now your plan changes, hard work is never gonna, bite you. So just throw yourself into whatever you're doing. Be kind to everyone you encounter, and you never know how that's going to come back and affect your life. And I think that things turn out so much better and more beautiful when you just focus on that instead of making sure that you're on some prescribed path that you're not even going to end up taking anyway.
No, I think that's great. It's more about just focusing on those little day-to-day things that you can do that are within your control that can lead you in a direction that you're trying to go, but then also just keeping that open mind and feeling good about knowing that your decisions are aligned with the type of person you want to be, and rather than focusing too much on a future goal and withholding your happiness until certain things happen, that's not a way to live. So I think that's such great parting words, and I am very grateful that you were here to share that with our students, and I can't wait to get this conversation out there for everybody to check out.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited too.
Thanks for listening. Please do not hesitate to reach out with any questions about the many resources we have in Dublin City Schools related to exploring post-secondary options. My email address is patton_kevin@dublinschools.net. I also want to give special thanks to student intern Cam Williams from the DCS Media Marketing Academy. Cam designed the cover art for the show and will be sharing regular updates via social media. Be sure to follow Cam's posts at DCS Pathways Pod on Instagram and TikTok. Hope to see you next week.